Hello, everyone. Welcome to another COVID call. I am your host, Ryan Pyle, and this is my Instagram Live. Today on the show, we've got Scott Wilson, who is also a television host and television presenter and co-creator of a very well-known travel television series called Departures, which has been on Netflix and Amazon Prime and whatnot. And I just wanted to chat with Scott because actually we've never met before and we've never spoken before, but we are in the same business and I've been a fan of his from a distance for quite a while. And I thought to myself, I should reach out and say hello. And yeah, so that's what we're getting into. Don't forget Descending. Oh yeah, and he also co-produced and hosted Descending. Very good. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate. But yeah, so we're just going to wait for him to join. Let's see if I can get him in now. He is active, and let's get him into the chat. Boom, he's here. Bring in Scott, and we will begin this conversation and see how this is all affecting us at the moment. Hey, how you doing?
Good. Can you hear me?
I got you. Yeah. Wow. Nice setup.
Awesome.
So I always like to start off by saying that we've never met, and this is actually the first time we've ever talked, but we are in the same industry, and I've actually been a fan of your show for quite a while.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually super stoked that you reached out for this. And I actually remember seeing some of your work a couple of years ago when you were riding through parts of China, I believe it was. And,
all right.
Like crazy envious of what you were doing. So this is cool. I wish we had had a chance to chat earlier, but better now than never. So
exactly. Now we have the time. So what I'd love to do is just talk about where you are at the moment, and hopefully you're safe and healthy. And then we'll go back into where you were born, what you studied in university and high school, and how your career kind of took off, and then what you're working on now. And we'll just kind of roll with it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so where are you at the moment?
I'm in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada at the moment. It's kind of where our company is based out of, and so this is home. And so I'm lucky enough to be at home through all of this right now with family, which is nice.
That's good. I was filming in Ethiopia and couldn't go back to my home in Dubai, and this is my 9th week in Istanbul, and the people who are following me every day are tired of listening to me give this same spiel each time. But yeah, far, not too far from Dubai, but far from Canada anyways.
Sure, yeah. And yeah. I mean, obviously that was not planned. So how has 8 weeks in Istanbul gone? Is it are you ready to go? Are you ready to move on, or is it a pretty great place to be for 8 weeks?
I don't know. I mean, like obviously it's a great place to be for 8 weeks, like when it's open and when the city and the street is buzzing with energy, because it's a city of 18 million, and it's a magical city. The architecture, the history, the mosques, everything, the market, it's beautiful. But of course, everything's closed. So so the only thing that's open here are grocery stores and pharmacies, and the streets are empty. So it's starting to like open up again. Like next week, I think a few more things are going to open, but yeah, like I was in a hotel for 6 weeks because I just didn't know. Like the uncertainty of all this is what is exhausting.
Yeah.
And then the United Arab Emirates came out and said that they'll reopen in July. So then when they said that, I moved out of the hotel into an apartment. I just rented an apartment for 2 months, and then we'll see how it goes, because I don't really have anything in Canada anymore. Like I have a bit of family, but I didn't want to go stay with them because you don't know what you're exposed to, right? It's kind of scary.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow.
So you're Echo Bay Media. Your production company is based in Hamilton. So you're at home.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Because you travel a ton. You're lucky you weren't caught out in the middle of nowhere, like you filming some exotic place, diving or riding your motorcycle in Africa or whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, not that it's, as you know, there are pros and cons. Not that it's a bad thing to be caught in a different part of the world necessarily, but with family at home, I think they're probably equally as glad that that I wasn't abroad when this all started to kind of go down. So we were doing some filming in Europe in February, and we were starting to, even at that point, monitor what was going on. I think
right.
in Greece in mid-February, doing some filming and starting to monitor what was going on. Obviously, it had at that point now started to spread and occur a little bit more in Europe and everything, and so we were starting to pay a little bit more attention. And we were actually supposed to be doing a shoot in Las Vegas the week after the lockdown at least happened in Canada.
Okay.
So we were. It was funny how quickly it ramped from a like, yeah, it'll be fine, to like a, wow, this is a pretty serious deal, and like all shoots just sort of halted right overnight, sort of thing. So it was, as everyone knows, everyone's going through, more or less kind of a similar situation. Obviously, some in a greater sense or a lesser sense, but yeah, it's we're you keep hearing it, but we're all in this together. So
We are all in this together. What happened for me was we were in Ethiopia kind of like mid-March, and we were offline for like 2 or 3 days, so we didn't really know what was going on. And we were up in the Simeon Mountains on the border with South Sudan, like totally empty. Like we didn't see people for days. It was beautiful. And then we get up to the top of this ridge. It was like 4,000 meters back, 12, 13, 14,000 feet. Get up to the top of this ridge, and our guide's like, "Hey guys, check your phones." And it was just like Italy's closed its borders. The United States has blocked air traffic from Europe, and then it's like Europe's closed its borders, and then the United Arab Emirates has closed its borders, and then we were like, "Holy cow!" So we got our guide to call a driver. We walked like 5 hours to the nearest road and drove straight to Addis Ababa and flew to like wherever we could at that moment. And that was my crew went back to Canada because that's where he's from. They're from, and then I came here to Istanbul. So
wow.
yeah,
It's great. It's sometimes, I'm sure, as you know, like there's so many great corners of the world where you feel a million, like you could be on another planet. You're so isolated, much like what you're speaking of there.
yeah.
And it's a good feeling. Like it's such a freeing feeling to not have your phone go off because there is no signal, and to not be connected and to be unplugged. You never expect that when you do get connected again to hear that the world is ending, so to speak. So that must have been pretty crazy.
It was, and it's crazy because I never thought I would not be able to go back to Dubai. Like that never crossed my mind. Like I was like, they might reduce air traffic flying, like, but they're not going to close borders. Like
Yeah.
that was kind of really shocking. So when that happened, that really hit home, and then it was time to cut production and get out as quickly as we could. And we'll see if we can go back and finish that episode someday. That'll be a nice kind of way to reconnect the second half of the episode.
For sure, yeah, that'd be quite. How far along in the episode do you think you
Um, if we
were? Is
can
it?
go back and finish it, it'd be nice. I think we're probably about 2/3 of the way through. I mean,
Oh,
we could probably stretch it if we could never go back or
yeah,
can't go back for a few years, but we'll see. I mean, we were supposed to deliver the series by next summer, and of course, everything's kind of in flux right now. But we'll have to see what the folks at BBC say.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that's heartbreaking to be so close to the finish line on an episode like that and not, and not be able to see it through.
If we had stayed, Ethiopia closed its borders like 48 hours after we left. So if we had like, yeah, so if we had finished our trek and finished our episode, we could still potentially be in Ethiopia, or we would have had to get one of the diplomatic flights out.
Yeah,
It's wild.
crazy. Yeah, it
Yeah.
happened very quick.
So look, I want to get back into you because I don't know enough about you. I mean, I try not to do too much research about people when I interview them because I want to be pleasantly surprised. So where were you born?
I was born in a town called Brantford, Ontario, probably 30 minutes from where Hamilton is, about an hour and a half, let's say, outside of Toronto for those who aren't familiar.
Yeah.
Got its fame from the home of Wayne Gretzky, for those who know ice hockey, and the home of the telephone for those who have lived on the planet in the last 100 years. So
Exactly.
yeah, it was a nice place to grow up, and close enough to Toronto that even as a kid we could access Toronto for hockey games, baseball games, and that was always the big city that you kind of identified with and got to. And then from there I went to film school at a place called Sheridan College in Oakville, kind of a suburb of Toronto.
That's
Uh,
what I wanted to know. I wanted to know how you got interested in making, television, and you did. You went to film school at Sheridan College. That's amazing.
yeah, yeah. And what's funny is that I applied to that program not for TV or film. I applied because when I
For
was in
ballet?
when I was in high school, I was in a band,
Okay.
and I loved, you know, 18 years old and loving, kind of CD and all this, and I was kind of involved in that, in the production side of things, and I loved being involved in the mixing and the recording and the production side of the record. And so I started to look around at places that I could kind of look at the music industry, and one of the places that was high on my list was the media arts program at Sheridan, which was sort of all encompassing in the first year of the program. So I applied and miraculously got in, because there were, people far more talented than myself who got accepted. Not the least of which my business partner Andre. Was an incredibly accomplished cinematographer, and even back then was incredibly accomplished for his age. And so we hit it off right away. We started working on a lot of projects together, and even before our first year of the program was out, we decided that we would start a company together and just try to put some of that skill that we were learning in school to work for us, instead of getting a job at the mall for the summer or something. Let's try to put some video work to use for us.
Wow. So hold on, you're 18 years old. You already know what you want to do. You're already going to the school you want to do it with, and you were already switched on enough to know that your business partner was the guy that you needed.
It sounds very planned out. I promise you, it was just a lot of happy accidents and lightning in a bottle. So.
Oh man, I went to the University of Toronto and got a degree in politics. Okay, like great for me. I had like ambitions of working at the UN or something like that, and
yeah.
And then I ended up all over the world and coming into this all by accident. But that's
education
wild.
Education is never a bad thing, though, right? So
Sure, right, exactly. Okay, wow. So Sheridan College, Oakville, you meet Andre, your business partner, in your first year. And what are you guys doing in school? Like, what kind of projects are you working on? Because I hire a lot of students. Like, I find a lot of people out of like NYU, for example. I've got like three guys at NYU that work for my production company, and they're all amazing. And I love hiring people like right out of school, because they're fresh and they're hungry and they would just want to travel and see the world. And of course, you and I are on the road all the time. So you can't have like 45, 50-year-old men and women with families and kids and mortgages like away for 3 months at a time.
That's right.
But what kind of stuff were you doing in university, project wise? Like, are we doing shorts? Were you doing commercials? Were you interested in like a narrative?
Yeah, a lot of what we were doing was shorts, were short format, because for most students that's what you're capable of doing, and what budget allows when you're on a student budget. And what
Right.
we found, though, that there were a lot of other students in the program who really wanted to almost overdream. That sounds bad, but everyone wants to emulate what Hollywood is doing. So everyone wanted to shoot on 35 mil, and they wanted to have a feature. And it's just incredibly ambitious and expensive for a student to do a feature in the course of a couple of 2 semesters, sort of thing.
Were you learning on film or digital?
At the time, we were in a great moment in time, because it was kind of the crossover. So we shot on 16 mil film, and we had access to 35 if you could afford it, which we couldn't. And at the same time, they were starting to bring in some of the first digital cameras, but still shooting on tape, digital tape. So mini DV cameras were kind of the thing that were coming in, and so we started to embrace that, because we started to really go after the documentary approach versus the scripted narrative. And so that interest in documentary, we wanted to be able to just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. And there was no way to afford that on 16. And so with the dawn of mini DV tape being incredibly affordable, it allowed us that ability to just shoot and shoot and shoot and figure it out in the editing suite.
Right.
And so that was kind of the first nugget. I think the first thing that kind of fell into place. The second was that we were approached by a gentleman in the Burlington, the Greater Toronto area, who was doing a tribal television show at the time for Outdoor Life Network here in Canada called "Don't Forget Your Passport."
Right,
And
I remember that.
it was magazine format travel show, but he came to us and offered us the opportunity to sort of help him cut some of these host demos for his program. So we did that, and as a thank you, he took us on as a bit of a second unit to a few of the locations that he was going. So now I'm 19, 20 years old, and my first time leaving North America was going to Zimbabwe in Southern Africa, and totally blown away, right? Totally blown away. What a way to kind of just be dropped into the culture shock, and it changed me in all senses of the word. It totally changed me, and I knew after that that travel was going to be an incredibly heavy part of my life and career for there on in. So that was
So
kind
you
of the thing that sparked departures, really.
so you did some pro bono work, editing hosts demo tapes,
Yeah,
and then the guy thanks you by bringing you to Zimbabwe and changes your life forever at 19.
good deal, right?
That's awesome. Oh
Good
man,
deal.
that's
Yeah,
incredible. Wow.
yeah.
And so you were in Zimbabwe and you were shooting as well.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I was doing the field audio, location audio, and Andre was sort of the second unit camera op, and yeah, we were so inspired by what we were seeing and who we were meeting, and these new cultures and new people, and being on the other side of the planet, and it really planted a seed for us to dream big of how a travel show could maybe look like, instead of going outside of the magazine format and doing
Right.
something a bit more of a direct documentary approach, and letting the camera roll. And so these ideas started swirling around, and we took the last of it. This is now fast forwarding about a year and a half or so, I guess, of sporadic travel with this travel program, and learning a lot, but being on the road, learning a lot about being in a very small, low budget crew, and how to make things work, and how to get by, and how to travel, and how to do pro bono stuff to get all
Yeah.
the full
All the good
works.
stuff.
Yeah, learned a lot, what to do and what not to do, and so we finally had an idea for how we thought a travel show should be. We kind of bankrupted ourselves, emptied our student loans, and bought our own camera, bought our
Yes.
own tickets to New Zealand,
Oh wow.
and went there for about a month and a half, and just shot and shot and shot. And I think the longer we were there, the further away from what we knew we were doing we were getting. It was just, we continued to shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot, and we thought, we came home with like hundreds of hours of tape, boxes of tape, and it was
Right.
like, how are we gonna even sift through this?
Right. Take 2 months just to watch all the clips.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to go back a little. So you go to Zimbabwe
Yeah.
in the summer at
Yeah. August. Yeah.
August. How do you come back to school? Like, how do you come back to school in September and not be like, screw this, I'm out of of Sheridan College. I found exactly what I want to do, and I don't need any more education.
And you know, we laugh about it. It was a very, very real
Yeah.
conversation for Andre and I of, should we even bother going back? And I mean, I again, I'm all for education and stay in school and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, with especially in this industry, the portfolio is king, and nobody really in this industry asks to see your diploma or your degree. It just doesn't. Nobody cares, right? You are what your work is,
Yeah.
and so that was a real part of it. But we had the dean of our program was a wonderful person, and she, we talked to her about it, and she said, look, I get that you have an incredible opportunity here, and she said, in your third year of your program, it's supposed to be a co-op placement in the workforce. Let's rejig this whole thing. You're going into your second year, spend it on the road with this production, and we'll count that as your co-op placement. So
Wow.
it really was a deal I couldn't turn down. I got to be able to follow through and see through my diploma, as well as not turn down the opportunity to continue production with that TV crew. So it was, again, like I say, very lucky, right place, right people, lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, but you know what? You took the pro bono work, and then that led to the Zimbabwe job, and then that led to the see. Like, this is the thing. Like, luck happens to people who do good things. Like, there is karma out there in the world. Like, you take a free job, you build some trust with some important people, and then when it comes back, it comes back. And
It
and I
does.
think that people just don't understand. Like, that's a lot of how the entertainment industry works. And you and I, we make travel shows, and we love our jobs, and we're not in Hollywood or anything like that, where the real money is. Like, and so, being friendly with people around us and helping people out when they need it goes a long way.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think any traveler will tell you that too, right? Being on the road, just helping out, being a bit outgoing, taking leaps of faith, are all an important part about making a trip go from here to here. And as you say, and open plenty of doors. Yeah, sure. Some of them won't work out the way you thought. Plenty of doors will shut in your face. But you know, if you don't take the leap of faith, if you don't take the chance, then nothing. Those opportunities will never really present themselves.
There's a great line in here. Someone just said the hardest part of overnight success is the first 10 years. And I couldn't agree with that more.
100%. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great one. Okay, so look, so you're working with the Outdoor Life Network, and I know you as an on-camera talent. So
Yeah.
you're working with the Outdoor Life Network, and Andre's second cam. You're doing audio. You guys are both getting a lot of production experience. When do you end up being on camera? How does that transition work? Because that's not an easy thing to do for anyone.
No, it's not. And it's funny. Some people take to the camera, some people don't. And we do a lot of corporate video still. We do a lot of TV commercial and things like that. And you can tell in the first, and even in TV production, when you interview somebody, you sit down to talk to them, you can tell usually in the first 30 seconds if it's going to go well or if it's not. And some people just, they just freeze up, and it never gets easier. Sometimes you try to fight through. Okay, well, what if we take a different approach? Let's stop. Let's go back. It never gets easier. So you're right. It's you never know until you're in front of the camera how it's going to go. For myself, it was again just based on Canadian budget and necessity. So we were bankrupting ourselves to go again, take this leap of faith to go try to shoot a pilot or a sizzle reel essentially for this TV travel show that we saw in our heads. But because we spent so much money on our own equipment, on our flights to New Zealand, and having enough money to stay there long enough to shoot this thing, we didn't have enough money to fly anyone else down with us. So out of necessity, I ended up getting in front of the camera thinking, if this is our idea, collectively, Andre and mine, I need to get in front of the camera in order to kind of show off what that vision is, to kind of exemplify how we would see the show coming together. So I went in front of the camera. We did this, the sizzle reel, this kind of pilot in New Zealand, came home, slowly sifted through all the tapes, put together a demo package, sent it off to the network here in Canada. And they called back the next day before lunch that they received it. We were tracking it on UPS, and well, they've got it. 10 a.m. It's been received in Toronto. It's out of our hands now. We'll probably never hear from them again. And right before lunch, the network called and they said, "We love this. We have to get you in." And so when we had that first meeting, they were talking about, okay, how do we go forward and blah blah blah. And we kind of had to give them the time out and say, well, I only went in for we'd have to find someone for the camera because I just was there as a placeholder. And they're like, no. We want you. That's what we want. So it just sort of happened that way.
That's amazing. That's the nicest story of anyone that I've ever heard of getting into television.
Yeah. Completely by accident.
Completely by accident.
I was the placeholder. Yeah.
That's amazing though. And I think the other thing that people can learn about your situation from this is that sometimes you need to spend your own money to build up a good portfolio of work. So when I went to China right after university, and I worked for the New York Times and Time Magazine and Newsweek, and I was a photographer, and I was constantly spending my own money, finding stories, doing my own research, building my own kind of photographic portfolio. And then when I wanted to make television, I had to do the exact same thing again and kind of make my own first show, literally on my own dollar, just like you and Andre did in New Zealand. And I think that not enough people understand that is how most of it has to happen at the beginning, because people aren't going to give you that chance unless you can actually show them what you can do. And most of the time that has to come out of your own pocket.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is you got to keep fighting for your own passion projects continually. I mean, even to this day, Echo Bay Media is now in its 20th year and we're still doing the same thing. It's a continual fight. And passion projects, they're, if it's truly a love, then you have to fight for them, because nobody's going to give you continually the passion projects. So, I mean, even after, this is kind of fast forwarding a lot now, but after Departures, we decided after 3 seasons we had enough. We wanted to walk away from it, and the network here in Canada was, over the moon. We had won them their first Gemini Awards, and they said, well, whatever it is you want to do next, you come to us first. You let us know. And we said, okay, well, we have this idea for a dive show. We want to get under the water and explore, the underwater aspect of the world, the other 70% of our planet that's under the surface of the water. And they were like, anything but that. So we, once again, even after kind of being, darlings of the network, we had to go out with our own money again, went to Vancouver Island, shot a demo, put it together, had to prove to them, had to show to them what the show would look like. So it never ends. It never gets old. You're right. You have to continually to fight and spend, and because somebody else is going to take the idea if you don't fight for it first. So
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? That's just, people just don't know how hard it is every day to be fighting for your ideas and fighting to put these shows together, and it's insane. I'll share a horror story with you, but towards the end of the interview, where we can talk about where we are today. So look, so you went to so you did this New Zealand demo. You went to the outdoor. You sent it to the Outdoor Life Network, I'm assuming, and they came back to you and said, no, we want you in it. And then, is that how Departures started?
That's how Departures started. We went to one.
You got 48 episodes out of Departures, right?
42, I believe it is.
You got 42 episodes of Departures, 3 or 4 seasons out of a demo you shot in New Zealand with your first time on TV.
Correct. Yeah. And they wanted more. I mean, at the end of every season, the network would approach us and say, "We want 2 more seasons." In fact, I think we had sent them the very first rough cut of the first episode, and they wanted to commission 2 more seasons after seeing the first rough cut. So we were blown away. I mean, we were complete greenhorns, and I think
that's what made it nice, though. That's what made it nice. That worked.
Well, I remember being in the meeting, and they gave us the official green light. They said, "Well, we're green lighting your project, so we'll just let that sink in for a minute." And Andre and I are like, "Okay," and they're like, "You want to like some high fives?" We're just like, "No, let's keep moving,"
Right. And we have no idea how much work this is actually going to be.
We were just terrified. We thought, well, what the hell happens now?
Yeah.
we sent in this passion project, but now we've got to follow it through. They actually want this thing,
So scary.
And
scary.
As you know, the amount of work involved in a TV show, especially when you lump it all on yourself, is incredibly daunting. And you go, because it's a passion project, you go over every minutia. You want to help select the music. You want to see every edit at every stage. You're incredibly picky about who gets involved in that project, and who you give your baby off to, to mix, to cut, to, every aspect of the legals, the marketing. It never ends. It's an incredible amount of work to do. But again, when it's a passion project, you find the energy somehow to do it. So we ended up doing 3 seasons, 42, if I remember correctly, 42 episodes. And we just had to walk away at that point. We were, the whole approach, and I think what endeared people to the project was the fact that we were seeing the world for the first time, and we were newbies to travel, and it was the ups and the downs, and it was all of those authentic reactions to people and places and cultures and experiences. And so we started to, it wasn't that we were getting bored with it by any stretch, but what we noticed is that by the 3rd season, your 50th country or whatever, you start to land in a place and you say, you know what, this reminds me a lot of Indonesia, or this reminds me of, the world gets smaller because you've seen more, and you see how this puzzle piece, this jigsaw puzzle of the world comes together and how it fits. You start to figure it all out. And so we didn't want to come across as being travel snobs or anything like that. We wanted to find a project and an outlet that would still allow the viewer to be seeing things legitimately the same way we were seeing them for the first time, and that's how we transitioned to kind of the diving world, the underwater world. So.
Amazing, amazing. So look, how long did it take you to do 42 seasons and sorry, 42 episodes and over 3 seasons? Like, how much of your life did you have to give? Because I also think that people don't understand just how much of your life gets sucked into these projects, because traveling all the time is not necessarily glamorous, and you do ruin most of your personal relationships because you're just away all the time. Even though communication has gotten so much easier, it's not like being face to face with people, and the toll on your life must have been huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, because even, I mean, in the first season, you're just traveling constantly. The second season, by the time you get back, by the time you've delivered the footage for episode 13, we were doing 13 1 hours, and which is a fair amount for travel. And we'd get back, we'd deliver the 13th episode, and you'd already be greenlit for season 2, and you'd be planning, you'd get enough to look at the last rough cuts, take a look and approve a few fine cuts. Sign a bunch of contracts. Like, we had some wonderful producers who just had stuff ready to go and do this, do that, do whatever. And then, yeah, you were right back out on the road again. So it was a nonstop 3.5 year kind of saga that just never, it was always a blur. And you're right. I mean, you would come home and I try to make some time to go see my folks and get back home again, back out on the road. It was constant. It was constant. And you're right. It does pay a toll. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is the project I wanted and what we worked towards. But again, you have to be careful what you wish for, because once you're into it that deep, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And what did your family think, like, about what you were doing, and how you had just kind of crafted this life for yourself all of a sudden, and you were basically abroad for 3 years exploring the very best the world had to offer? Like, what do they tell their friends when they introduce you as their son that they never see?
I think at first my parents were just sort of like, okay, well, have fun, like, we'll see where this goes, sort of thing. Just let them off the leash and see what happens, sort of thing. And then I think by the time that they saw the first season on TV, and this a bit of a buzz kind of going around it, and they ran into people who saw it and were saying, we saw your son on TV last night, blah 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 blah. They kind of realized, when I was in my mid late 20s, like, oh, this is not only just the career he's chosen, but probably a pretty solid career, and one that will at least allow him to pay the bills and not end up on the street. So I think it was kind of a slow transition, because, like, when I was in school and I started traveling, I had that opportunity to go to Zimbabwe, talking back to that again. And they say, okay, well, it sounds like a good opportunity. Be careful, have fun. And it kept very quickly morphing into the next step. And so now here I am, 40 years old, and they still are just go, yeah, and this is our son, Scott, and he travels the world for a living, and, on to the next thing, so.
Yeah. Well, we're the same age, and I grew up in Toronto, like just, an hour from you. And it's wild that we both ended up here having this conversation now as two Canadians, connecting for the first time, who have basically been crisscrossing the planet for the last decade and a half.
How we've never ended up at the same, like, departure lounge at the same time or something is beyond me, but it's going to happen one of these days, I'm sure.
We'll make it happen after this, when the world hopefully goes back to normal. So look, the story of how you got Departures is unbelievable. And I just want to say, like, people need to take stock of this. Sometimes you have to spend your own money. Sometimes you have to do some stuff for free, and sometimes you got to just hustle. And the nonstop hustle gave you, the job of a lifetime, really. And it's amazing that that was your first kind of big project, and now you've spun this into an entire, production and media company, and you've got like a real career, which is something that no one would have thought, like watching, Departures season 1, where you guys were just traveling around the world being in awe of everything because you guys hadn't been anywhere before. Like, yeah. And then now to be like, well, our company's 20 years old, and we do commercials, and it's like, okay, these guys actually are professionals, like, beyond just traveling and being like backpackers.
Yeah. Yeah, I
It's
wouldn't say professional, but no, just kidding. Well, sometimes we don't feel professional anyway. But yeah, I think we had to make big boy decisions very early on, where even during the filming of Departures, we tried to very carefully manage and nurture that corporate and commercial side of our business at the same time, knowing that it wasn't going to last forever, that there always had to be a plan B or a fallback. And you know, the corporate and commercial world might not always be glamorous, might not always be creatively stimulating, but it was there as stability, and it's certainly the reason that we're still here, and the business is still alive 20 years later, because there's a lot of peaks and valleys in this industry, and so when times get rough, you know, like now, you rely on the more domestic stuff, on the more local stuff, and clients that have been there all along, that still need your help and want your work.
right.
So yeah, it was incredibly important, because it's, you know, for us at least, it hasn't been nonstop 100% passion projects and fun. There has been, and it comes along with a lot of hard work, but there's also been that other avenue, that other side to it, that kind of ebbs and flows. You know, some years, if we're really heavy and we have, say, 2 productions going at the same time for TV, the corporate commercial world kind of takes a bit of a back seat, and it might only be running at 25% of what the whole income of the company is, or something. On lean years, where we're in between projects, because let's face it, you know, as much as you fight tooth and nail for a passion project, you might hang on to something and be fighting for it to try to get it off the ground for 4 years. And so when times are lean, you rely on that other work as well. So we've always tried to ensure that there was a safety net for us as well, so that we didn't have to leave the industry and go get other jobs or anything like that.
That's great. Yeah, for me, I do a lot of speaking engagements all around the world, so that's how I'm able to balance that out, and I keep my production team pretty lean. But we're filming, like my guys and I, like I'm still kind of on your Departures schedule now. Like I've been doing this kind of nonstop. So last year, 2019, we filmed in Philippines, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mongolia, Taiwan, Thailand, Kyrgyzstan, India, and Hong Kong. And we did 10 episodes, 10 1 hours for Discovery Channel. And that's a show called Expedition Asia. And then I had lined up another like 15 hours worth of stuff this year, which kind of just got blown up by COVID. And that's actually why I moved. So it's interesting. Like you got your start staying in Canada, building a Canadian company, working with Canadian broadcasters, and now your shows have been seen all around the world, which is
Right.
incredible. And congratulations to you and Andre and all of those successes, because that is not easy at all.
Right.
For me, I went to Shanghai, China, lived in China for 16 years, documenting China, and then I started making content in Asia and about China. And then when I started making content all around the world in like 2016, that's when I started thinking about relocating to Dubai, just because the traveling was so difficult and
Right.
so exhausting,
Right.
that Dubai just became a perfect little hub for me to kind of get everywhere from.
Sure.
Yeah,
Amazing.
unbelievable.
Amazing. Yeah, it's funny that the 2 different avenues to the same travel world that we're living. That, you know, you went through kind of the Asia route, and it kind of blew up there. So that's amazing. That's amazing.
So I think that the other thing people need to know is that there's no way to replicate anyone's career path. Like
Yes.
you just have to figure it out yourself, and every single path is going to be totally different. Because I remember watching your stuff and being like, "That's really cool," and then I watched, you know, the Long Way Round, Long Way Down with Charlie Borman and Ewan McGregor, and I was
Of
like,
course.
"That stuff is cool." And then I tried to like find some middle ground in there and tried to see where I could make it happen, and it's amazing just
Yeah.
how everyone's path in this business is totally different.
Absolutely. And you're right. I mean, you draw on the inspirations, but use it as an inspiration. Don't just try to emulate, I think is the thing. And we've had a lot of people, I'm sure like yourself, that reach out to you via email or social media or whatever, and be like, how can I do what you did? Like, how can I have a show just like you? It's like, well, you know, use this as an inspiration, and find your own voice, kind of thing. You know, create your own identity, your own show, your own creative outlet, sort of thing. So
Yeah, I always give people this example of just taking risk, and and living in that discomfort zone. Because, you know, like whenever you take a step out into the void, you know, and take that risk,
Yes,
it's either going to go horribly wrong or it's going to go great. It's never going to be neutral. You're never going to bring that foot back and nothing will have happened.
that's
So
right.
the more you put yourself out there and the more, you know, crazy shit happens, the more chances you'll have that something will progress to be better. And I think that most people are just afraid to go out into the void and to take that risk, take that first leap.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And that's, I mean, I am not a type A personality. It takes a lot out of me to go in front of the camera and do that delivery. You know,
Yeah,
it's honestly, it's exhausting. You know what I mean? I'm the guy at the party who just sits in the corner quietly, and everyone's like, "What's wrong with him?" You know, that's just who I am. I can be outgoing. I can be on camera. It sucks the life out of me to do it, and I need to kind of recharge the batteries, you know,
that's
in order
interesting.
to do it again. But to your point, I have to do, sometimes I just have to do that. And whether it's to go in front of a, you know, a board, to pitch a project, or whatever it is, as much as I hate it, as much as I'd love to just avoid it, you know, you kind of have to put yourself out there. And there's a million situations like that when you're traveling, when you're trying to, you know, get something off the ground, get a project going, and follow your heart. It's not easy. Nothing ever comes easy, and you really do have to fight for it. Like you said, it might scare you, but even with travel, I say to people, you know, if you're going on vacation for the first time, you're going to Europe for the first time, you're going wherever for the first time, put something in your itinerary. You know, even if you have to baby step it, find something that scares you a little. You know, of course, proper. You know, not
Safety
smart.
first, safety first, safety first.
Safety first, but do something that kind of, you know what I mean, puts you outside of your comfort zone is more what I mean. And 99 times out of 100, that's what people really remember at the end of their trip is when they kind of, they left the all-inclusive compound and they went into town for the day and they actually met real people and whatever else, you know. And that starts to turn a new leaf where people kind of realize, oh yeah, there's more out there than just the package trip. I can live it myself. I can live my own adventure.
Right. So I want to, you said something very interesting earlier, and I just want to go back to it. So you and I both produce television shows and we also host television shows. And I haven't looked at your whole bio, but I'm guessing you've probably hosted 75 to 100 hours of television.
Give or take, yeah. I think so. With Departures, Descending, I went back behind the camera as a producer,
Right.
or supervising producer for a series called Uprooted, which was kind of a travel food program that we shot in France for about a year and a half. Then Andre spearheaded a project called Over the Horizon, sailing through the South Pacific to places basically you can only get to if you have your own boat. And so that netted him his first Emmy nomination, kind of put him a bit more on the map for the US, which got us shooting a few programs for Discovery US. Again, back behind the camera again.
Right.
And then as of last year, I decided to get back in front of the camera for a project that kind of fell in our lap, as a co-production with a Japanese network, for a project called Into the Rising Sun. And you'd be quite interested because it has me on a motorcycle touring through lesser seen parts of Japan. So
I saw that.
as you know, if traveling itself isn't wonderful, to do it on a motorcycle is like head explosion awesome. So it was, again, a true passion project, just a 4-part miniseries. But I mean, I love Japan. My heart is in Japan, and I keep revisiting time and time and time and time again. So we were hoping to do more of that series this year, but again, with the situation the way it is, it's probably going to be shelved until at least next year at this point.
Okay. So the point I really wanted to get at is that you've hosted a ton
Yeah.
of television, and
Yes.
your face is all over
Yeah.
the shows.
Yes.
And I'm just so surprised that it takes so much out of you, and that it's like a real job for you, because sometimes you'll see hosts on TV, and I felt the same way actually when I was watching Departures. I felt like you guys were so effortless,
Right.
and you know, when your pieces to camera just seemed, you know, really relaxed and easy. Like, but it does take something from you.
It does. I mean, the on-camera part for me, I'm used to now. That doesn't really drain me, and especially because I treat it. We travel. We always do travel with a very small crew, tight knit crew, people I'm very comfortable and have a huge relationship with. And so when I'm talking to the camera, I'm talking to Andre, and that's it. And I've become very comfortable with that. It's easy for me to do. But being outgoing, to be a good host on camera, to go up to that stranger on the street and see, to go into the shop and just break out of the norm, things I wouldn't do if I was just traveling for myself. I would be a bit more of a wallflower and just observe and be the fly on the wall. Whereas that's boring on TV. Nobody wants to see somebody just quietly traveling and walking around. You have to get in there. You have to talk to people. You have to put yourselves in uncomfortable situations and dance like an idiot with, trying to dance the way the locals dance because they invited you to. And
Right.
that sort of thing is, in order to make something TV worthy, is what really, some people are A-type personalities and they would be the life of the party everywhere they went. That's not me. So that's what I find exhausting for myself is taking it to, if you want to look like you're at a 10 on TV, you have to give a 15, right? And
Right.
so that is what I find really exhausting because I'm not that personality type.
Well, actually, this is one of the things that I wanted to touch on today with you as well. Is like I've been trying to build a brand for myself of being really kind of calm and authentic and someone who's gathered their thoughts before they speak. And I feel like this is really rare on television these days. But this is actually one of the qualities that you guys have kind of done really well too. Is making, you get excited when you get excited, but it's level-headed, non-sensationalized, no fake drama, no chaos. You guys are just making nice travel content. Like, you guys are just telling great stories. And I don't know when that became not enough. Like, having the frames switch every second and a half, and making like killer fish come out of the river for no reason, and all this sensationalized crap that's on television now. And I really admire how you guys have built a company of just telling beautiful travel stories without having to jazz them up to the point of nausea.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. And that was a very conscious effort that we wanted to make sure that, because even very early on, going back in our conversation a bit, when we made when we were cutting the pitch for Departures, this travel show that was the
Is this on
Seinfeld.
YouTube? Is this on YouTube anywhere? Is this original pitch that launched your career available for everyone on the internet?
I think and maybe if there's anyone who's on here right now can corroborate this, but I believe we stuck it on one of the extras of one of the DVDs, if I'm remember correctly. Maybe I'm wrong. But that original pitch, I remember before we sent it out to the networks, we kind of wined and dined a few different independent TV producers in Toronto who had experience, and we showed it to them, and they would say, well, it needs something more. Like, it needs a hook. Like, you have to travel on $10 a day.
I hate that. I hate that. It needs a hook. Not if the talent is good.
Yeah, and I'm just like, the hook is we are traveling. It is authentic travel. That's the hook. People will connect with that. And that didn't seem to be enough. Everyone was kind of like, well, like, good luck then. And as I say, when we finally took that leap of faith, we finally said, we just have to send it, because if we don't send it out to the network, we'll never know. And we sent it, and they called the next day. So yes, going back to your original point, that to us, authenticity is real. I think people are so TV savvy now because they consume so much, and everyone can consume so much through what we're doing now, through social media, through YouTube especially, and through conventional TV and streaming elements like Netflix and everything. There's so much available. People are really savvy to TV, and I think they can smell bullshit a mile away. And so I don't like to think that we can ever pull the wool over someone's eyes. Let's just show things the way they are. Let's just be authentic. And if I'm scared, or if I'm sick, or if I'm miserable, let's just film it that way. Let's not fake it, So it seems to have worked.
This is super important, because the authenticity of what you guys did, and it's definitely something that I've tried to emulate as well, is when you're authentic on camera and you're making authentic television shows, they're timeless.
Right.
Like they last forever. Like you guys did Departures more than 10 years ago, and it's still on Amazon Prime. It's still on Netflix in some countries. It's still traveling the world on airlines. Like what you guys did is timeless because you did it kind of the way you wanted it to, which was not sensationalized, not overhyped, and not with some stupid hook. You guys just went out and saw the world in the most genuine way you thought you could. And I have absolutely tried to do the same thing. And you know, you mentioned my motorcycle trip around China. Again, we just went out completely authentic, completely green, and made a show. And that's still the show that most people have seen that I've made. Because it didn't have a hook. It was just two guys, my brother and I, trying to not die while riding a motorcycle around China. And you're right. That's the hook. That's all it ever has to be.
That's right. Yeah, I know. And that's for people who are saying, you know, what's the next project? Like, are you going to make a Departure season 4? Are you, you know, what's the next thing you're going to do? And we're into and interested in all of those things, but it takes a lot of effort and unfortunately a lot of money around those things to make those projects happen, and to try to convince networks that this is worth investing in, that this is a good idea. Again, it's a fight you never stop having to fight. It's a battle you never have to. It is a battle you never stop fighting, because you know, yes, you're only as good as your last project, so to speak. But even when you can prove that to them, the networks are often like, oh, well, yeah, but you know, we want the hook again. What's the hook on this? Like, we just proved to you, you don't need the hook. You know, so
you just need compelling locations. Like I launched this television series called Extreme Treks, and there was no hook. It was just me trekking from A to B in beautiful places. So sometimes it's climbing to the peak of a 7,000-meter mountain. Sometimes it's walking 150 kilometers across a desert. It was always just A to B, and it's just me and my guide and maybe some camels or some porters or whatever. And there's no hook, but it's so raw and it's so authentic. And the locations we went to were amazing. Like we filmed in Tanzania, Morocco, China, the USA, Peru, Nepal, Italy, Oman, Russia, Iceland, Laos, Papua New Guinea, Bolivia, Argentina, Jordan, and Uganda. And that was just over like a 2-year period.
Wow.
Where we filmed that. And it was just like authentic pieces to camera, filming what we saw, and just making the story up as we go. Like, hey, there's something interesting over there. Let's try to do a little feature about this. Oh, there's some history here with this house. Like, let's get our guide to go over and do it like that. Because with travel shows, and you know this better than anyone, you do pre-production, but what you do for pre-production is maybe only like 30 or 50% of what the episode is ever going to be, because when you're on the ground, everything changes.
Yes, exactly. I think that's probably lost on a lot of people, you know, who might, you know or have done something in kind of the scripted world. You put out these best laid plans, but no matter, with all of our projects that we've done, it continues to be the same way. Exactly. Did I lose you? There you go.
We're still good.
We go into a location with best laid plans, but the second that we run into an amazing person who has a great story, the second that we drop into a small town that just has a festival going on, the plan goes out the window. We stay, we go where the adventure takes us, kind of thing. You know, screw the script. Let's just let's keep going where the action's happening.
Yeah, and that's what the audience wants to see. And as long as you do it in a real way, they'll be right with you the whole time. Yeah, that's awesome. So we've got about 6 minutes left. Instagram Live caps us off here at about an hour. So sure. How has this COVID experience destroyed? I mean, look, we're both healthy. I hope that your friends and your family have not been affected by this in any major way. I think you and I are maybe a little bit lucky in that sense, but how has this kind of slowdown or stoppage affected your film and television production? Because I think production companies around the world are just getting crushed. And I'm really afraid that, television and film production is super hard and super tough to make a living at, even when times are good. And now, times are terrible. And how are you getting through it all?
Again, I think it's important, just as you say, I'm healthy. I have a roof over my head. My family is healthy, knock on wood. And I have to just count those blessings at that. Yes, the business has taken a huge hit. We were off to probably one of the strongest years this year that we've ever had. And instantly overnight, the work vaporized when the shutdown happened here in Ontario. March, I think it was like March 13th realm, and yeah, overnight the schedule just went blank because every shoot that was lined up was either canceled or postponed indefinitely. So yeah, I mean, there were, the first few weeks there was a lot of sleepless nights that I had just thinking like, geez, is 20 years of work going to go down the toilet now? But we tried to focus on what we had control of. I didn't realize, I said this in another podcast as well, but I was spending a lot of time at home, obviously, and I was driving my wife nuts because I was going room to room, and there would be like chaos in that room, and I would have to clean it up, and she was just like, "What are you doing? Like, just what are you doing?" And I realized in that little argument with her that I was like, I'm trying to grasp control in a situation in a time where there's very little control, and so I didn't, I'd lost control of my own business. You don't have control of being able to go outside where you can go. All of a sudden, there's a lot of chaos, and so in that chaos, for me to try to have control, it was like, okay, there's chaos in this room. I can control that. I will clean up that chaos and take care of it. And so when I started to apply that mindset to the business and to other parts of my life, it was calming. It at least started to right the ship. It gave me some sort of a buoyancy where I thought, okay, there's a lot out of control. What can I control in the business, and look internally in the business? And we've been putting off things like updating the website, getting the demo reel up to date, doing housekeeping within the business, and making a plan for when, because it's just a matter of when things start to come back to normal. And so it gave me a good perspective. It gave me a lot of buoyancy to just sort of say, okay, the sky isn't falling. We just have to focus on what we can control, and feel a lot better in an otherwise chaotic situation. So I'm confident that things will come around. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen overnight, and it will probably be a slow thaw as opposed to a light switch putting the industry back to work. And I fully believe that for us, again, being agile and being mobile, we'll just have to kind of shift our weight onto the corporate commercial leg and lean on that way for a little while, and focus more domestically, focus more locally on the work here, which isn't a bad thing at all, until the time is right that we can get back to what we love and what we feel we're really good at, which is out on the road exploring.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. Like, I was looking at having my best year this year as well. I've had like 15 speaking engagements canceled. We've shut down production on 3 things that we were doing, and we're all just sitting. And I'm in Istanbul, in an apartment that I don't own, or I'm renting long term, just sitting on my hands. Having phone calls with other people who are in the same boat, as a way of me dealing with the chaos of our world.
Yeah. I bet when you rang in 2020, you didn't expect to be spending 8 weeks on the phone, basically, in Istanbul, right?
No, but it's been great. And look, we're just about out of time. We got about a minute left. Obviously, for anyone out there listening, I've been a fan of Scott's for a while. We had never spoken before this. We've never really been in touch before this. And I'm a big admirer of what you've done and what you've accomplished. And we will live to film another day. And I want to thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, it was lovely to meet you, even if just digitally for now. But truly, I think we have a lot of spirit in common. So I think it's only a matter of time before we have to kind of combine forces on something.
I think that's well needed, and I think a handshake and a beer, a face-to-face beer, is needed when that is allowed at some stage.
I'm definitely in.
Okay. Well, look, you stay healthy, take care, and good luck with friends and family. And I will be in touch. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys, that is Scott Wilson of Echo Bay Media, and you guys will probably know him as one of the hosts of the amazing television series, 42 episodes, called Departures, which you can see literally all around the world. And I've been a big admirer of Scott's for a long time. I loved what they did. I love the energy that they have. I love how they make their shows, and I've wanted to talk to Scott for a while. And the COVID situation around the world has allowed me to reach out and make new friends. And there's a lot of suffering going on right now, and I'm just trying to deal with it the best way I can, and that is kind of chatting with people I want to chat with. And I'm very thankful for Scott for giving me a bit of his time. And I hope everyone out there is healthy and safe. And if you want to watch any of these previous interviews, they're all on my YouTube channel, which is just Ryan J. Pyle. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.